Welcome to the British Football Guy, and this is the start of fantasy football season. With me today is Logan. How are you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
Good. So Logan is joining us for the whole sessions and the previews for quarterback, running back, wide receivers, tight ends, and we're not going to do the other two because there's nothing to talk about. But we're going to start off, and this is a Getting Paid to Poop episode, and we're going to talk about bold statements and things to look out for and top tips from yours truly. So I'm going to start this off and talk about our last year fantasy results and how we did and what teams we had and if there was any strategies and kind of how we're going to bring that into this year. So Logs, I'm going to start with you. How did you fare last year?
I failed miserably last year. I put all my apples on what's the running back or the QB for Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and performed horribly.
So I remember with Lamar, he was getting drafted really high, like maybe round 2 or 3, not too far after Mahomes. He'd had a breakout or MVP year the year before, and he was phenomenal. And I remember picking him up that year as a kind of a round 5, round 6. And I think as a bold statement, he was probably somebody that people expected to carry on and just didn't. Do you remember what position you came in your league?
It was pretty early, like second round or something.
Oh, no, where did you end up in your league?
Point-wise, I did well, but I would always end up with somebody that beat me by like 200 points or something, get way up there. I think I ended up in like third to last or something out of 10 people.
Okay, all right. So not the best. Was that your only league last year?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you staying in that league this year?
I am. I'm going to try it again. I got to do a little bit better this time.
How much money do you put into that one?
This year it's 40.
40. Okay, so a decent, I'd say like kind of mid-level fantasy league.
And they know what they're doing for the most part. There's a couple people that pick just Cardinals players or something, but the rest of them know what they're talking about.
I love players that just pick by emotions. You shouldn't. So last year I was in 2 leagues, and it was the family and friends league that we run. And again, some of those, there was one individual that picked by emotion and picked the majority of the Cardinals team. In the season before, somebody actually picked Robert Gronkowski after he announced his retirement. So it's that type of level. And also that person chose 4 quarterbacks and 3 defenses. They did come second in the league, but then got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. They had drafted Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. And we'll talk about kind of in the strategies when you have leagues like this. If you do have those players that might be a little bit more rookie in fantasy leagues, you can't predict. And as many kind of mock drafts that I'm doing, you got to know who you're against. So I actually came 5th in that league out of 12. And then I think I got knocked out in the semis or even sooner than that. But I was happy with that. My wife has had, for the last 2 years in that family and friends league, the highest points in the league for 2 years. The first year, she didn't even make the playoffs, even if they had the highest points. Second year, she won it, and then she was pissed at me because I extended it because we had a 16 playoff where Alvin Kamara got injured and there's all these people kind of resting players, and so she actually lost the final. So she is still livid with me on that. And we are going to bring my wife on to do an episode very soon. So that one I came 5th, and the other one was our friends from Austin that we've been playing with for maybe 5 years. And I was good at 1 year. I lost that. I was in the championship final, and I was a flight back from London, and I got my time difference wrong. And the game had already started by the time of touchdown, and I didn't take Todd Gurley out and put Mike Davis in. And if I did, I'd have won. But anyway, I won that this year round, and it stuck to the strategy that I had for, I guess, coming into the mock drafts, because these were people that knew their stuff and thinking, if I have this draft order, what am I going to do? So pleased with that one. That one's like it was a $75 buy-in last year. It's now $100, and there's 12. So it's a big pocket. I actually put it to a Peloton after I won. So dreams are made from these leagues. But this year, I'm looking at 4 leagues. I think it's too much. I always say 3 is too much, but I just love it so much. I think I love drafting more than anything. We have our Friends League, Arizona Royalty, which I've called it. And then we have the Family and Friends League, one in Arizona. We have the Austin League. And I actually got into the new neighborhood that we moved into. I got into their fantasy football, which is actually drafting tonight, 1st of August. We're recording this, which is insane. It's 5-6 weeks before the first football's tossed. So interesting to see that. But anyway, that's kind of where we had last year. That's where we finished. So we're going to talk about bold statements. Now, before we actually enter the fantasy piece, Logs, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
There are quite a few favorites, I would think. I mean, obviously you have the Bucks kind of coming back off of their Super Bowl run. Can't go wrong with the Chiefs. They still have a very solid team. I think kind of maybe a dark horse coming into it would be like the Bills. I mean, they had a powerhouse last year, and they're just going to build on that. It looks like they've kept most of their same lineup. I would say just all around, you just can't go wrong with the Chiefs.
Yeah, so Chiefs are the favorites for the Super Bowl next year. I'm going to say Bucks, and I'm going to say Bucks just because if Old Man Brady still has something left in him, he's got another year with that playbook and that team that they retained, I think, pretty much everybody. So I'm going for the Bucks to win. I get what you're saying about the Bills being a dark horse, habitual finalists and losers. I'm thinking, is there anybody else that could really surprise us? And just looking at the bets here, being a Cardinals fan, we are maybe, 15th on the favorites here. I might just put $5 on that because that is, at plus 4,000. Also, when it comes to fantasy and this next stage of our podcast, we are going to give you kind of betting advice and things like that. Interesting other ones, Dolphins, I think they could make a good run. I think they'll be good to watch if Tua can get his shit together. But yeah, I think there's a good chance of it being the Bucks and Chiefs. Not Ravens. Saints have taken a back seat. Any team that you expect to be a surprise and don't do well, but they're favored, or any team to kind of come and make a playoff run, a bit like the Bucks did last year.
Right, and one thing to mention too, when I was doing my little bit of research here, the Bucks actually have the 4th easiest schedule this year, and the Chiefs are way higher up, 13th from the hardest. So there's quite a bit of schedule difference there.
So with the Bucks, I think so definitely good money to put on the Bucks, and they're plus 650 right now. Team quite high up right now is Broncos at plus 2,000. I don't see them doing that well. I think they're going to have another poor year. Titans are at plus 3,000. So I think a team that isn't a bold statement would be Cowboys don't make the playoffs again. That would be my bold statement.
Agreed. I mean, they have the 2nd easiest schedule according to the thing I looked at, but considering all the turmoil with the new coach that came in last year and just not doing that well, Dak coming off of a massive injury, I just don't see the Cowboys really having a great season this year.
No, and that would be such a shame.
And Ezekiel did not play hardly at all last year, it seemed like.
So for Zeke, for me, he's one season of disappearing off the face. I want to talk about this as well in terms of when we do our kind of tactics for QB and all the other positions. I want to talk about forgotten men. Like those actors that you used to always see in 90s movies, and then you're like, what happened to that guy? And then you see him, he's working at Wendy's. So I think these forgotten men, Zeke is potentially going to be one of them last year. Like, what was a wide receiver for the Cowboys? See, I've forgotten him because he's a forgotten man. But even like tried out with the Browns and just couldn't find a team. He actually did play for Saints.
Before he got injured in the practice game.
My point exactly. He's forgotten. Painful.
Someone's going to yell at us for this one.
We'll enter the... Wait.
Des Bryant. It's Des Bryant.
Damn it. Okay, we'll come back to that. Somebody can tell us. But But yeah, these forgotten people, I think that's really important. That I think Zeke is kind of that close to it's kind of being one season away. So I don't think Cowboys are going to do anything. And I guess my pick would be Dolphins to make a big run as well. So that's who we think of the NFL. Now, any breakout candidates or bold statements that you have for quarterbacks?
I think there's that battle at the Saints right now between Taysom Hill and another forgotten man.
Jameis Winston.
I think Taysom Hill is going to take it. I think just the history of Jameis Winston throwing massive amounts of interceptions over his career. Taysom basically never having a faulted game, it seems like. Even though he's never really played a true quarterback, he's kind of been their fill-in man, I suppose. He's going to, I think, take it with just his ability to see the whole offense. The idea that he's played basically all the positions.
Mm-hmm. Right. I like that.
I think he'll do well there.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so somebody he can block, he's played tight end, he can play wide receiver.
He's played running back even.
Shit, really?
I think so. I feel like he's filled in for that role a couple of times.
And back in 2007, he was goalie for Tampa Bay Lightning. It wouldn't surprise me, right? He's the type of guy that...
Swiss Army knife.
Right, exactly. So I think that's interesting. So Jameis Winston, coming into this, I was thinking, dang, he might be somebody I'd pick. And especially if I've got enough kind of space on my teams, depending how deep, the teams are. Picking up Jameis, but I do agree with you. Taysom Hill and the way that Sean... What's his last name?
Payton?
Sean Payton. He was saying that they're going to look at quarterback like no other team has really. They're going to have this dual threat, and they're going to use them for whatever the play is, and it just gives them an extra layer. Whether one wins out, we'll have to see. But that's why I don't think for fantasy, unless Jameson has been maturing, which I thought he had, and been kind of taking stewardship from Drew Brees, I'd say, don't pick either. But my bold statement would be Jameis actually comes through, and Jameis has a huge season.
Okay.
So that's my bold statement for quarterbacks. Anybody else that you're looking at?
As far as players?
So let me put you a question. So first round picks for quarterbacks here, there was Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Zach Efron for New York Jets. Justin Wilson? Wait, Zach Wilson. So there was 5 big ones that went off the board early on. Who makes it, or who has a decent rookie year, and who is a flop?
I think you have to go with Fields, and then the one that was picked up by Jacksonville.
So Lawrence and Fields both making it?
I think they're both going to do really well.
Okay.
I don't know much about the others, but based on what I've heard, I think those two will do pretty well in their locations.
Yeah. I'd agree with you on Trevor Lawrence. I don't know enough about Justin Fields in terms of how Bears are going to play. I'm not a big fan of the Bears. I don't think Trey Lance is going to do well. My hope is that Mac Jones, he's the flop. And I think he's the Josh Rosen of what the Cardinals picked up. He's going to be working at Wendy's soon. Just the kind of the arrogance that he has, I don't think he puts himself in shape. He's obviously talented, but I don't like the dude. So I'd say Mac Jones and Trey Lance I'm not too sure on the fence about him. He's coming into a really tough conference, but they do have Garoppolo. So if they can work Trey Lance like they did with Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs, then maybe. But yeah, I'd say Mac Jones is going to be a flop. So other than that, are you expecting to see any of the trends? We could talk about running back and wide receivers, kind of boom and bust on that one, but we'll keep that to the separate episode. So when it comes to running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, or any trends that you're going to see?
From players specifically, I think Saints are probably going to struggle a little bit. I mean, Michael Thomas is out kind of semi-indefinitely. I don't know. It's such up in the air. We're still so far out from the actual start of the season. A lot of injuries could come up. There's some free agents kind of sitting out there that could be huge for teams if they pick up the right players. Todd Gurley is one of those names.
Do you think old man Todd, I think he's only like 26 or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he's younger than us.
Dang. But yeah, his knees are made of I don't know, cotton candy. It's insane. There's nothing left inside of them. Yeah, I think you're right with Saints. I don't think they're going to do well. The other piece, I think this is going to be the year of the tight end.
I mean, there's some big people out there. One person I want to bring up, and I hope he makes it just for the fun of it, Tim Tebow.
Oh my God.
He's there with Urban Meyer, and they have like a pretty decent team because he's Jacksonville this year, right?
Yeah.
I know that they still have to cut players, but based on the news, it sounds like he's playing pretty well in the off season with practice. It'd be really funny to see him come out as a tight end.
You know what? So with the Euro soccer taking place, it seemed months ago that Tebow had been picked up by the Jets. I completely forgot about Tebow. And also with Aaron Rodgers' situation as well, that's kind of blown over, at least in my world. But yeah, Tebow, that'll be incredible to see what he does. I hope he does well. Just being a fan of the underdog. And yeah, the only thing I say about tight ends, especially when you think about fantasy, is they're growing into the role. It's not just who can you have, and we're going to talk about people like Kyle Pitts, and I can't remember the dude's name, but I think it's like Northman at Saints taking a big spot there because Jared Cook went, and they don't have anybody there. Taysom Hill's not going to necessarily play that role, so. And then obviously, I think Kittle's on the decline, but he's a big guy. You got T.J. Hawkinson, so I think the tight end role is going to be bigger. And even like Robert Tonyan at Green Bay, there's more of these Kelsey builds coming through. So I'm going to say it's a year of the tight end. I would love to see Tebow do well. That would be a bold statement that the Jags win everything. How much? Okay, I'm just trying to think. How much money would you get for that? So the Jags are the fourth least favorite at plus 10,000. Texans at plus 20,000. You would be throwing your money away.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe the bold statement would be Texans actually leave the NFL this year and they just give up or get bought by a different franchise in London.
So kind of on that line then, real quick, teams that will and will not make the playoffs this year, bold statement.
So yeah, I think Dolphins are going to go far. I don't think 49ers are going to make it because it's always a tough division. 49ers or Rams, one of the two won't make it. Even though they're more favoured than Seahawks and the Cardinals. But I think it'll be one of the two of those don't make it. Cowboys, I think it is a bold statement that they don't make it because they're still in a pretty shitty division. Okay, my biggest is I think Washington football team will go far.
Yeah, that one, I don't know much about who they have in their lineup this year. Isn't Fitzpatrick supposed to be their starting QB? And if he's got his magic playing with him this year, I mean, they could do well.
I'd like to see Fitzmagic do well. Yeah, he's a really good guy. So, yeah, that would be mine. Any others for you?
As far as teams, I think Steelers will probably have a losing record this year.
Oh, wow.
I don't think Dallas will make it to the playoffs, kind of along that same line. I think Jacksonville, even though we just said they're fourth from the bottom, I don't know. I'm partial to them going over this year. No particular reason except for they're just such a big underdog. Cardinals will probably fall short, I want to say.
Bullshit. I forget. Who do you actually support? Because you're from Montana. So Montana's usually Broncos fans, right?
Yeah. I've been in Arizona for so long, I'd probably say I just kind of root for Cardinals when they're on. I mostly just vote for individual players at this point.
Like Tebow.
Yeah.
Team Tebow. That might have to be your fantasy team name.
Maybe. Yeah. And then I, just as like one player that really stood out last year, and I think he's going to do really well again this year, is Cole Beasley. He's always
Really?
kind of just slid under the radar, and he had a massive year last year at the Bills.
Yeah. So Cole Beasley.
I think he'll be a top tier wide receiver this year.
So I always thought Cole Beasley looked like my cousin, and she's a girl. So that is a bit. He did really well, but when I don't know, he had some news on him about Ryan. I did see some stuff, because he might not even make it because of something he said about anti-vaxxers. So he did have an incredible time, but I'm sure he's like 5'2" as well. Like he doesn't. Oh, hey, look, we've got his stats here. Height. Oh, well, a little bit taller than 5'2". He's 5'8" and 110 pounds wet through. So, yeah, Colby's that is bold. That is bold. That's even like a drunk statement. But yeah, okay, fair play. We'll see. We'll come back to it, see how many bold statements we get, and see who lives up to it.
I'll probably be wrong, like I was last year on all my predictions.
I'm going to say Cardinals do make the playoffs, though.
They have the weapons to do it. Don't get me wrong, but just with their history of always falling short, I'm just going to follow the trend line.
This is my emotional piece of it coming through. This is no one taking to fantasy. But anyway, that's the Getting Paid to Poop episode on bold statements for this year in the NFL and fantasy.